I'm here with Mindy Eisengerg, professional yoga therapist. She runs Yoga Moves MS, a nonprofit that helps increase the quality of life for people with multiple sclerosis. Today, we're going to talk about how yoga, meditation, and breath work can impact mood, anxiety, and living with a chronic condition. And we're going to talk about all that right now. All right, so Yoga Moves MS, man. So you've just been moving through COVID. You've been moving through neuromuscular conditions. Like how has all of these things been coming together in these COVID times, Mindy?
Quite surprising, actually. So the minute COVID hit, the yoga world turned into virtual. And I didn't know exactly how that was going to work. You know, people before COVID were saying, you really need to go online. You need to start teaching classes online.
Right.
You're going to reach more people. And I'm like, yeah, but I really like my in-person classes, you know, kind of resistant to change.
Sure.
And immediately, it's called Yoga U. They started running classes on how, or, you know, seminars on how do you run an online yoga class. And jumped right on as soon as the tripods and the halo lights were back in stock. Got to get that all set up.
That's pretty much, that's the only thing that's lighting me right now. Like I've got a window over here and I've got that ring light over here, like bing. That's basically what it is. So yoga and anxiety and like living with a chronic condition, that's one big garbled ball of static that you help people unravel through movement and through meditation. Like it's powerful. So how's that sort of been going for you through Yoga Moves MS and on these online classes? Because COVID was the catalyst to get you to be doing this, but you're touching so many more people now.
So true. Like we have people from different countries, Australia and Europe and continents and Canada. It's really been, it's so fun to have, like Sophia, she's on from Portugal on Friday morning. I just saw her. And Australia's on Tuesday night. It's just so fun.
Right.
It really is. It's like they're not that far away.
But they're not. They're only in that screen.
Exactly. It's so true.
Because this thing is virtual now, essentially you're holding space for people, and yoga is a sort of very person thing. Like this is an in-person thing. There's like 50 people in a room that all come together through movement, and the energy that's in that space gets moved through that space, gets moved through those people's bodies. So how has it even been with like doing these things virtually? Like you said, someone was in Australia, but you're still connecting with them. We're still
finding ways to connect.
Right?
Absolutely. There was we brought back a class actually for Parkinson's back in September, and there was a woman who came, a student who came, and she had been going to all the virtual classes. And I'm like, you know, your alignment's really good. Did you do yoga beforehand? And she goes, no, I've just been doing your virtual classes. And I was like, wow.
Oh yeah, no, it works if you work. That's pretty much
it can. I mean, there's definitely pros and cons, because with adaptive yoga, sometimes we are helping people out in person, but we are reaching more people, and people don't have to leave their house. So they're not worrying about transportation. That's a real big one. They can do it every day.
Yeah. My whole brain is kind of on fire right now. And what, because of MS, but what really helps bring me to the center is a meditation practice. And meditation and yoga is a moving meditation. So please share with our viewers.
I'm going to start with the breath, because one thing that really COVID brought to the forefront, and you know, I'm a yoga teacher, we're taught the breath is the foundation of yoga. It's the most important part. It's the most important. It is yoga.
Mm.
And whether you're meditating or you're doing mindful movement, breath is where the focus is. And during COVID, a lot of people had challenges breathing. And I took a step back and actually took a Buteyko breathing certification. What I learned from that,
There's a breathing certification.
there's a whole bunch of different breathwork certifications out there. I decided on the Buteyko method. I had read this book by James Nestor called Breathe. It is an amazing book. And it really changed the way I look at breath. Even though I was taught and knew we want a breath in and out through the nose. We want a low breath. People always say, take a deep breath. And you know what happens when they take a deep breath? They go, talk about adding stress and anxiety into your body.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so we know that language, but I know as a yoga teacher, we're taught that maybe if you went to a really good program, but then do you have time during your class to go around and make sure everybody's breathing properly? Not necessarily. Depends on the structure of the class. So I've always had a focus looking at, a lot of people bring tension into their chest and their collarbone and their neck and their jaw. Talk about when people are stressed out, where does it usually go?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people will say, when I go online, one of the number one things, I love going on in the morning, I'll say, okay, guys, what do you want to focus on today? One of the number one areas they say is the neck.
Wow.
Number one.
Okay.
A lot of neck pain out there. And so if we look at the breath, and we want to take the breath low, and people say deep, but sometimes I think that, you know, that is misunderstood. It's a low breath. We're taking a diaphragmatic belly breath. But if you've been breathing for years and years, where there's a chest breathing going on, that in and of itself will cause anxiety.
Wow.
And it will change the way you feel, your fatigue. So if you're fatigued from MS, okay, and then you're breathing through your chest, or what's called a reverse breath, when you're pulling your belly in on the inhale, that's gonna throw you off kilter too. And energy level is gonna be imbalanced.
So essentially, what I'm hearing is that this is important to, if maybe it's yoga, maybe it's medicine, there has to be something that it works for the patient, that they connect to their breath, and they take their breath and not only take it for granted, but utilize it to its fullest advantage, because life sort of makes us use the breath differently. And
absolutely,
because you have a chronic condition these days, it's imperative that you figure out how to get the most out of your breath. 1, 2, start moving again. 3, begin to tune the world out so that you can understand more about you and feel how you are moving through this space, whether you're hurting or not.
So when you say tune the world out, you mean like during the meditation practice, we're really turning inside.
Right. That's see, this is why you're on the show, Mandy. Right. You shut the eyes and sort of all of the sensory things that we have to get this information. It's like, we have all the information that we are going to need right here. And the more you connect with that, and the more you understand that, the more you can begin to build, the more you can begin to, now I guess I can do a movement practice. Because before, if you were just breathing up here and your body's all tight and it's just not going well, you don't feel like doing anything.
You don't feel like it. And so what happens is, like, if you're stressed here and then we say, lift your arm up. So then you're like, your shoulders coming up to your ear, right?
Yeah.
Because you're used to bringing your shoulders up to your ear. And then your arm can't straighten all the way because you're all contracted in here. So we're so connected.
Yeah.
Everything is connected in the body.
How do you get someone who is resistant to adding these sorts of things to their routine. Like you have this medical condition and everyone's like, you should meditate, you should yoga, you shoulds, whatever.
Shoulds don't work, right?
They
Shoulds don't work.
don't work. However, at some point, somebody's curious because they're like, I've lived this way. Maybe I can live another way. And maybe these practices can help unlock that. So how do you even get someone from one side of like, leave me alone, I don't want to do this dumb, to like, I do this Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays with Mindy Eisengerg on Yoga Moves MS.
Well, it's a challenge because I have people tell me all the time that they saw the flyer, they saw the information about the classes, and they just kind of tucked it away.
Right.
And knew it was there, and something spurred them on. And once I think stories are really powerful. So if they hear from somebody else, you know, when I was breathing a little bit softer with a little bit more balance, I noticed my spasticity lessened. Once we get them in the room, in the yoga room, whether it's virtual or in person, there's a better chance of us getting them hooked, right?
Right.
I think meditation scares a lot of people off. I hear this all the time. I cannot meditate because my mind will not stop. I will flunk meditation. But Damian, you know better.
Yeah, that's not how it works, friend. People say they want to meditate to turn their mind off. Nah, you cannot turn your mind off. Like your heart beats, your mind thinks. So there's no way that, put it like this, when you can turn your brain off and you can turn your thoughts off, you are no longer in this realm of existence, my friend. So the more you understand that and the more that you just sit with that, the more you can begin to get some of the goodness out of these practices, one. And then two, if you can't sit with yourself for 5 minutes, what makes you think everyone else in your life can sit with you for 2 minutes?
It's really tough. It's tough to sit with yourself.
That's part of it. And understanding why that's tough is part of the journey. And when you have a condition like MS, you just forget some days are different, some hours are different, some half of the hours are different.
And you want to get out of your body. Like, you don't want to be in your body. You want to just get out. Right? So, and it depends on the type of meditation where we're going to do something that's more mindfulness and bring us into our body and into this present moment.
The whole thing about it's anxiety. And I think that there's a lot of anxiety running through people, but it's not called anxiety. They recognize it as something else. They recognize it as a way, or this is just the way things are, or like this is what it is. But it's like, yo, bro, not turn it off, just turn it down. And as you turn that down, then other things get turned up. Other parts of your personality that were drowned out by the noise of the anxiety begin to be able to sing further. But you do not understand what it is until you figure out how to remove something. You figure out how to remove it. And practices that like you run with Yoga Moves MS really start to help peel that away for people. And that's why what you do is so powerful.
Yes, so you can do it. So for some people, meditation is the way. Like, that's their practice. That's their yoga. For some people, it is moving into the postures. For some people, it could just be breath work. The thing about yoga, if we think of yoga as breathing, movement, the postures, and meditation, and even more, I like to look at it like it's a whole big holistic umbrella with all these lifestyle choices, and that we have a toolbox, and we can pull out these different tools. There's so many different types of breath. There are some that are intended to help us feel more relaxed. There are some that can be more energizing.
Mm.
And the way that the yoga practice, the movement, the posture practice is designed, it also can help us have a more restorative practice or a more activating practice.
Mm. So we have chronic conditions here, and you have made a program especially for people with chronic conditions. How have folk moving through your programs moved the needle on their own hang-ups? I don't want to say troubles, I don't want to say issues, like their own sorts of things like that. That's kind of what I'm interested in now as another multiple sclerosis person.
Yes.
What
I
would you
think
say
it's
to other
different for
multiple sclerosis people?
everybody. You know,
Pardon?
some people are gonna, I think it's different for everybody. I
Right.
think some people are gonna, I find when I teach the breath,
Mm.
the room quiets. It's almost like giving people permission to just be. And it's amazing how people, once they're invited to practice the breath,
Yeah.
they're there. There doesn't need to be so much convincing with it. You just have to open up their world to it.
Right. I think that's even part of it, because making it available and then walking someone through what it feels like in them, you don't have to do anything after that, because they're like, wait, this has been here the whole time. Oh, I get to do this. Oh, I get to feel this way. Great. And these practices and movement, all these things, they're not some magic wand that removes the medical condition from your life. However, it's part of understanding what wellness is redefined now, because you do have a medical condition. And the more you get to expand what that means, the more you get to invite wellness in. It's an expansion and not contraction, but it's an out and an in, just like the breath.
It's like a pulsation. It's a pulsation.
The more out you go with folding practices into your life, the more in wellness and goodness and joy and good feeling get to come in. And that's not something that people sort of like get. They sort of have to experience.
They do. But sometimes it can click, like the breath can click pretty fast. I was presenting for MS Views and News last weekend.
Okay.
And after the presentation, I went into the hallway and someone stopped me and said, you know what? When we were breathing, I felt it right away. It felt really good.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you get hooked, but you just are like, wait, not only do I like that feeling, but I can access it all the time.
Accessible. It is accessible. Right.
It's not that it's here all the time, because yeah, your breathing is here all the time, but your mindful breathing, you have to access. You have to actively work to be one with that. And that's how you call it in. It's like you want the wellness to just show up at your door. It's like, nah, bro, you got to open the door. You got to sweep the entryway, and you have to sort of welcome it in. And that's part of what having practices is all about, welcoming in the wellness.
Yes. And it is a practice. I like to emphasize that, because whenever we teach, whether it's meditation, breathing, or the postures,
yeah,
the first thing that comes in is this self-judgment. I can't do this. I'm not doing this right. I'm not breathing right. I can't move like that. My pose doesn't look like your pose.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what we have to do is try to notice the judgment, notice that it's there, and then kind of say, okay, it's there, and then move on, kind of acknowledge it. Because if you push it away, just like if you push away the MS or the chronic illness, what's it going to do? What's it going to do? It's
going to push back harder. Again,
push back harder.
There was something that you said that triggered something that I was going to say, but I forgot it because of MS. But
don't give me that card. Don't even
listen. I was trying to do it. Okay. Mindy's like, nah, I'm not having it, son.
I'm not having it. I hear that all the time. I'm not having it. I believe, but Move on
But
from that. Move on.
no, right. But I think that's now us speaking this way sort of jog the notion. One has to really sort of just be in touch with the judgment. The judgment is like, oh, am I doing it right? Oh, this doesn't look like this person's. That's all resistance. Another way that judgment comes in, I'm a very regimented dude. Even if if I'm say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, whether or not I do things at the time that I said that I was going to do them. However, a lot of people are like, man, I said I was going to do yoga at 8 and I didn't do yoga at 8, and man, that's it. And it's like, yo, bro, it's 10. You can
Get
still
on your mat.
do the yoga, right? Get on the mat. And that is another set of anxiety, another set of mood that piles on the more people try to expand with practices, right?
Just show up, because John Kabat-Zinn, one of his quotes is 99% of it is showing up.
Facts. Just get on the mat. And especially when you do not feel like it. That's the more powerful thing, because not only are you doing the exercises, you're working your mind to expand beyond the notion of what's normal, beyond the notion of what I do or how I work. It's a dual action of getting the body moving again, but also getting the mental moving again and getting it uncrystallized. That's
Yeah.
not.
So, we use this a lot in yoga, open to possibilities. I feel like, yep, open to possibilities.
That's
Let
it.
it in.
That's it. That was something that I wanted to hit on, because I know that's something I struggle with. Like, oh man, I didn't do it at 8:30. You're like, bro, it's 9:15. You can do that still, right? It's like dieting. You cheat on a day, and then you're like, oh well, I cheated. I was good for 3 months, but I cheated today, so it's over now. But it doesn't have to be that way.
It does not have to be that way. And we say begin again, right? Just begin again.
Begin again.
Right? The breath keeps going. It's a practice. It's not a destination.
Wow. That I think that's it. That's really the biggest message. It is a practice, and there is no like you can't get there and then wave goodbye to the cab driver
and you're done.
No, this is as long as you are still breathing. You might want to pay attention to your breathing. As long as you're still moving, you might want to pay attention to your moving. And the more you do it and the more you're practiced in it, the more effects you can feel when you're not practicing it, and the more goodness you get to invite in. And that's what.
And if you practice it, oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, come on now.
If you practice it when you really need it, like you aren't feeling well or you are really stressed out, then that tool is not at the bottom of the toolbox.
Facts.
You grab it right out.
Facts. We're doing it when you don't feel like doing it, so that you can do it when you need to. That's something that it is not really possible to tell to someone. They just have to experience it. Yeah. So as such, where can we experience Yoga Moves MS?
So they can go to yogamovesms.org. We offer daily virtual classes, Monday through Saturday. Yeah, and we have different teachers. I have a team of teachers who've all been trained by me. I love different teachers because we all say things a little differently, which is another reason, you might prefer Julie's Saturday class over my Tuesday night class. Yeah. And for different reasons. And I love how different teachers use different languaging. That is also something that can help the click. Like, oh, Mindy said it like that. Yeah. But see, that's what Julie was talking about the other day, So And Betty Ann teaches it like that. So you hear it in different ways, and then it starts to gel together.
Yeah.
That's why I like to see it practiced. Ideally, a few times a week would be nice. Obviously, we start with what's realistic. So we offer these daily classes. We also have videos, and we're going to have an on-demand system very shortly. So
Nice.
people on different time zones could go on and look at videos. So these classes are free. We do not charge. We do run on donation. The other thing that we do is we do a holistic health and wellness forum, and that's virtual as well. So it brings in different types of holistic care that complement your medical care. For instance, Dr. Jeannie Coate, she's going to talk about, she's a neurologist, specializes in MS. She's going to talk about acupuncture for MS.
Right. Okay. There's something about the idea that you're like, no, it's free, Brand. Like, this is here. And it's like, it doesn't
no excuses there, right? No,
but that's
excuses.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't cost you money. It just costs you time.
Yeah,
So,
time is all we got, right?
and that's really the only thing that we have. So will you pay the cost of your time and your attention to your wellness? And that's kind of the only way that more is going to be invited in, regardless of where you are right now, you know?
You have to experience it to believe it. There's a lot of research that's been done over the last several years on mindfulness and on yoga and on meditation. So we see it. You can see it on the scans. You can look at somebody who's been meditating a long time. You're going to see parts of their brain are lighting up differently than someone who doesn't meditate.
Right.
We also know that yoga helps quality of life for people with MS. There's been a few studies out in the last few years that show that. Yeah. But there's still that secret sauce. It's almost like a secret, right? Like you can't put your finger on it, but I have students who say, you know what? I feel better. After I do my practice, I feel better.
Right.
That's the data. Right? It's your own self-research.
The hardest part is showing up, and you showed up for us here. So thank you for that. And the viewer, you showed up for us. So thank you for tuning in and seeing this whole thing go down. And thank you. We will see you on another MS Views now.
Namaste.
Namaste, baby.
Namaste.